Chapter 36, Risa. Risa is the first to notice something's wrong with Connor. Risa is the first to care that something's wrong with Lev. In a moment of selfishness, she finds herself aggravated by it because things are going so well for her now. She finally has a place to be. She wishes this could remain her sanctuary beyond her 18th birthday, because in the outside world, she'd never be able to do the things she's doing now. It would be practicing medicine without a license. Fine when you're in survival mode, but not in the civilized world. Perhaps after she turned 18, she could go to college and medical school, but that takes money, connections, and she'd have to face even more competition than in her music classes. She wonders if maybe she could join the military and become an army medic. You don't have to be a buff to be in the medical unit. Whatever her choice ends up being, the important thing is that there could be a choice. For the first time in a long time, she can see a future for herself. With all these good thoughts in her life, the last thing she wants is something that will shoot it all down. This is what fills Risa's mind as she makes her way to one of the study jets. The Admiral has 3 of his most accessible and well-appointed jets set aside as study spaces, complete with libraries, computers, and the resources to learn anything you want to learn. This is not a school, the Admiral told them shortly after they arrived. There are no teachers, there are no exams. Oddly, it's precisely the lack of expectation that keeps the study jets full most of the time. Risa's duties start shortly after dawn, and it has become her habit to begin her day as one of the study jets, since at the time of the morning, she's usually the only one there. She likes it that way, because the things she wants to learn make other kids uncomfortable. It's not the subject matter that bothers them, it's the fact that Risa's the one studying it. Anatomy and medical text mostly. Kids assume that just because she works in the medical jet, she knows all there is to know. It disturbs them to see her actually having to learn it. When she arrives today, however, she discovers Connor is already there. She stops at the hatch, surprised. He's so absorbed in whatever he's reading that he doesn't hear her come in. She takes a moment to look at him. She's never seen him so tired, not even when they were on the run. Still, she's thrilled to see him. They've both been so busy, there hasn't been much time to spend together. "Hi, Connor." Startled, he looks up quickly and slams his book closed. When he realizes who it is, he relaxes. "Hi, Risa." By the time she sits down beside him, he's smiling and doesn't seem quite so tired. She's glad she can have this kind of effect on him. "You're up early." "No, I'm up late," he says. "I couldn't sleep, so I came here." He glances out of one of the little round windows. "Is it morning already?" "Just about. What are you reading?" He tries to push it out of view, but it's too late for that. He has 2 books out. The bottom volume is a book on engineering. That's no surprise, considering the interest he's taken in the way things work. It's the book on top, the one his nose was in when she arrived, that catches her by surprise, and almost makes her laugh. Criminology for morons? Yeah, well, everybody needs a hobby. She tries to take a long look into him, but he looks away. "There's something wrong, isn't there?" she asks. "I don't need to read Connor for morons to know that you're in some kind of trouble." He looks everywhere but into her eyes. "It isn't trouble, at least not for me. Or maybe it is in some ways. I don't know." "Want to talk about it?" "That," says Connor, "is the last thing I want to do." He takes a deep breath and shifts in his chair. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." "You don't sound so sure." He looks at Risa, then looks at the hatch, making sure they're still alone. Then he leans in close to her and says, "Now that the Goldens are no longer around, the Admiral's going to be looking for replacements. I want you to promise me that if he asks you to help him, you'll turn him down." "The Admiral doesn't even know I exist. Why would he ask me for anything?" "Because he asked me," Connor says in an intense whisper, "and I think he asked MB too." "MB? All I'm saying is that I don't want you to be a target." "A target for what? For whom?" "Shh, keep your voice down." She looks again at the book he was reading, trying to piece it all together, but there just aren't enough pieces. She gets close to him, forcing him to look at her. "I want to help you," she says. "I'm worried about you. Please let me help you." He darts his eyes back and forth, trying to find an escape from her gaze, but he can't. Suddenly, he bridges the small distance between them and kisses her. She did not expect it, and when he breaks off the kiss, she realizes from the look on his face that he hadn't expected it either. What was that for? It takes a moment for him to get his brain functioning again. That, he says, is in case something happens and I don't see you again. Fine, she says, and she pulls him into another kiss, this one longer than the first. When she breaks it off, she says, that's in case I do see you again. He leaves, awkwardly stumbling out and nearly falling down the steel steps to the ground. In spite of all that went on between them, Risa has to smile. It's amazing that something as simple as a kiss can overpower the worst of worries. Lev's troubles appear to be of a different nature, and Risa finds herself frightened by him. He comes to infirmary call that morning with a bad sunburn. Since he's a fast runner, he's been assigned messenger duty. Mostly it involves running back and forth between the jets carrying notes. It's one of the Admiral's rules that all messengers wear sunscreen, but it seems Lev is no longer bound by anyone's rules. They make small talk for a bit, but it's awkward, so she quickly gets down to business. Well, now that your hair is longer, at least your forehead and neck seem to have been spared. Take off your shirt. I kept my shirt on most of the time, he says. Let's have a look anyway. Redundantly, he removes his shirt. He's burned there as well, but not as badly as on his arms and cheeks. What catches her attention, however, is the welt on his back in the faint shape of a hand. She brushes her fingers across it. Who did this to you? She asks. Nobody, he says, grabbing the shirt back from her and slipping it on. Just some guy. Is someone on your team giving you trouble? I told you, it's nothing. What are you, my mother? No, says Risa. But if I were your mother, I'd be rushing you off to the nearest harvest camp. She means it as a joke, but Lev doesn't find it funny. Just give me something to put on the burns. There's a deadness to his voice that's haunting. She goes to the cabinet and finds a tube of aloe cream, but she doesn't hand it to him just yet. I miss the old Lev, she says. That makes him look at her. No offense, but you didn't even know me. Maybe not, but at least back then I wanted to. And you don't want to anymore? I don't know, says Risa. The kid I'm looking at now is a little too creepy for my taste. She can tell that gets to him. She doesn't know why it should, because he seems proud of his new creep factor. The old Lev, he says, tricked you into trusting him, then turned you into the police the first chance he got. And the new Lev wouldn't do that? He thinks about it, then says, the new Lev has better things to do. She puts the tube of burn cream in his hand. Yeah, well, if you see the old one, the one who always thought about God and his purpose and stuff, tell him we want him back. There's an uneasy silence, and he looks down at the tube in his hand. For a moment, she thinks he might say something that brings a hint of the other kid back into the room, but all he says is, how often do I put this on? There's a work call the following day. Risa hates them, because she knows there isn't going to be anything for her, but everyone must attend work call. Today, the gathering isn't run by an Unwind. It's run by Cleaver. Apparently, he's temporarily taken over the job, since no one's been found to fulfill Amp's duties. Risa doesn't like him. He's got an unpleasant, slimy look about him. There are only a few work calls for today. Someone wants a plumber's assistant in some godforsaken town named Beaver's Breath. There's some farm work out in California. And the third job is just plain weird. Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, Cleaver says. You'll be working on an oil pipeline till you're 18. From what I hear, it's one of the coldest, most brutal places on Earth. But hey, it's a way out, right? I need 3 volunteers. The first hand belongs to an older kid who looks like punishment is his middle name. Like he was born for brutal work, right down to his shaved head. The second hand raised catches Risa by surprise. It's Mai. What is Mai doing volunteering for work on a pipeline? Why should she leave the boy she was so attached to back in the warehouse? But then, come to think of it, Risa hasn't seen that boy around the graveyard at all. While she tries to process this, a third hand goes up. It's a younger kid, a smaller kid, a kid with a bad sunburn. Lev's hand is held high, and he gets chosen for the pipeline job. Risa just stands there in disbelief. Then she searches for Connor in the crowd. He's seen it too. He looks at Risa and shrugs. Well, maybe this is just a shrug to Connor, but it's not to her. When the meeting breaks up, she makes a beeline for Lev because he's already vanished into the mob. So the instant Risa gets back to the infirmary, she calls for a messenger, and another, sending them off each time with a redundant note reminding kids to take their medicines. Finally, after her fourth call, the messenger they send is Lev. He must see the look on her face because he just stands there at the hatch, not coming in. One of the other medics is there, so Risa glares at Lev, pointing toward the back. That way, now. I don't take orders, he says. That way, she says again, even more forcefully. Now. Apparently he does take orders after all, because he steps in and marches toward the back of the plane. Once they reach the storage room at the back, she closes the bulkhead door behind them and lays into him. What the hell are you thinking? His face is steel. It's the door of a safe that she can't get into. I've never been to Alaska, he says. I might as well go now. You've barely been here a week. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? And for a job like that? I don't have to explain anything to you or to anyone else. I raised my hand, I got chosen, and that's all. Risa crosses her arms in defiance of his defiance. You don't go anywhere if I don't give you a clean bill of health. I could tell the Admiral you've got infectious hepatitis. You wouldn't. Just watch me. He storms away from her, kicking the wall in fury, then storms back. He won't believe you, and even if he does, you can't keep me sick forever. Why are you so determined to go? There are things I have to do, Lev says. I don't expect you to understand. I'm sorry I'm not who you want me to be, but I've changed. I'm not that same stupid, naive kid you guys kidnapped 2 months ago. Nothing you can do will keep me from leaving here and doing what I've got to do. Risa says nothing, because she knows he's right. She can stall him at best, but she can't stop him. So, Lev says, a bit more calmly now, do I have infectious hepatitis or not? She sighs. No, you don't. He turns to leave, opening the bulkhead door. He's so determined to move on, he doesn't even think to offer her a goodbye. You're wrong about one thing, she says before he's out the door. You're just as naive as you were before, and maybe twice as stupid. Then he's gone. That same afternoon, an unmarked white van comes to take him, Mai, and the fleshhead away. Once again, Risa thinks she'll never see Lev again. Once again, she'll be wrong.